Well, basically, I grew up in a hockey family. My brothers and I all played, two brothers myself, and started in Kelvington. Your dad putting you on the ice for public skating and crawl your way back and then throw you back out of center ice, and pretty soon you're hanging out with everybody on the ice and wheeling around. I think the biggest thing is just playing, how much ice time and how much quality ice time we got to have all the time. Growing up in a small town, you had your regular practices, and once all the other teams had practiced, the rink's free again, so you got to go back on the ice. So we were always on the ice, practicing and playing, and we probably played more non-structured hockey than we ever did structured hockey. Well, probably all the guys that come from your hometown, the guys that played in the senior team. Barry Melrose was ahead of me in the area. Bernie Federico and Dennis Blonich were in the area. So those guys were just ahead of me. But a lot of it was your senior hockey team that was playing at night here at your home games on Tuesdays or Friday nights. The whole town would show up to watch your senior hockey team play. And those are the guys you look up to when you're a little kid. Playing in Notre Dame for 2 years under Barry McKenzie and Terry O'Malley under the school of Notre Dame did so much for my development as a player and a person, and just getting to the next step and playing for the Saskatoon Blades and playing you're basically your first big hockey. You remember listening to the Saskatoon Blades and Regina Pats on the radio playing all the time. That's where if it wasn't the Rough Riders on, you were listening to the junior games on the radio. So getting a chance to play junior, that was a huge highlight. Well, I think it's the passion that comes out of the province, the passion that comes out of all the small towns. Not just so they have the passion to get to the NHL, because that can seem like a long ways away, but people have the passion for their hometown team to beat the neighboring hometown team. You're pulling for everybody in the province, and we have long, harsh winters, so lots of people love to play the game. Right now in the playoffs, it's outstanding. The speed of the game, the tempo that they're playing on, the skill level that the guys play with. I think it really, if you watch the size of the teams, it's not a size issue anymore. You got all sizes of players that make it. You have to be able to skate, and you have to be smart. No, this year in the playoffs, scoring's been going up. The game is always evolving. You're always going to see a change, and you'll never see that stop. But I just think the skill level of the kids today is outstanding. That's a huge honor. That's a lot of guys ahead of me that played and had. I watched play, and I'm just proud to be a part of those guys that are part of the province, the Brian Trottiers, the Tiger Williamses, the Bernie Federicos, all these guys, Clark Gillies. It's just a huge honor to be a part of all these guys that are been throughout the province, because we all love where we came from.
Inducted as a player, Wendel Clark won a gold medal at the 1985 World Junior Championships. That same year, he was drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs, where he became known for his toughness, grit, and leadership, wearing both the A and C. He dressed for 5 other NHL teams, but played the majority of his career for the Leafs. His professional career includes 234 points, 690 penalty minutes, and 2 NHL All-Star selections.
Well, we lived on the Souris River in Weyburn, Saskatchewan, and we started skating on the river when we were wee little guys, and we had a lot of outdoor rinks then. We had no artificial ice then, and so we all just got together, and the way it should be. It still should be that way. My mom used to say, "I'll see you in the playoffs," the first game of the year. So you always wanted to be as best you could be all year, so that hopefully she'd see you play at least a game or two in the springtime. So I always thought about that. I did even as a pro. When you play that major junior, now you're committed. It's a 24/7 deal, all year round. Yeah, I used to look up at those stands, and you didn't want to let anybody down, whether you knew him or not. Johnny Norman was my first coach, and he put Tiger on my sleeve, so I remember Johnny, like it was yesterday. Stan Dunn was a great coach. I had him in junior, and a good man and a good person. The Olsons, who were my billets and Swift Current, they were as important to me and helped me probably more on a regular basis than any other coaches. There are 3 kids and me, so you just fit in. And I think your billets you have the right billet like I did. I learned a lot from them. One of the greatest highlights was being on the ice when Sittler scored his 10-point night. It's never been done since. Probably will never be done. That was a great night. Playing with guys that, scored their 1,000th point, or they were lucky enough to play 1,000 games. If you ever forget where you come from, you are not going anywhere. It's absolutely vital that you remember where you come from and remember everybody that helped you out along the road. The guys can come home and the gals can come back to this province and fit right in. That's not the same in a lot of other places. When we come home, yeah, we have big cars and we have fancy cars. And we have all colors of credit cards, but we still get to fit in just the way we left. And that's a very unique thing, because it's not like that in the bigger centers. We're so much different than any other place. During the playoffs, everybody comes to play. You know, why did Chicago win the Stanley Cup? Well, because they're one of their best players, Jonathan Toews, and their leader, is one of their hardest workers, if not their hardest worker. And that's what the game's all about. Talent only takes you so far. Hard work wins you the Stanley Cup.
Inducted as a player, Dave Tiger Williams started with the Swift Current Broncos. He played 14 years in the NHL with 5 teams, most notably with the Canucks and Maple Leafs. Known as an enforcer, Tiger holds the NHL records for most career regular season and combined career playoff penalty minutes, topping out a whopping 4,421 minutes.
Well, when I got started in hockey in Nippo in Saskatchewan, I tried every sport that they possibly come up with, and I ended up being hockey as my number one. I learned to skate in the old Rooney there in Nipawin. We didn't have a so-called league back in Nipawin at that time. First we learned to skate, it became a rink ride, and then we progressed up into the midgets and pee-wees and juveniles and seniors. And fortunately, I was gifted with some natural sports talent, and it helped me along the way, believe me. Yes, I played 22 years pro, 16 in Seattle, and 1 year in St. Louis, Missouri, in the old American Hockey League, which is still in operation, I believe. And ended up in Portland, Oregon. I played a year and a half in Salt Lake City and a year and a half in where I ended my career in Portland, Oregon, 1973. I'm quite proud of the 1 year I got awarded the Grand Slam, which was the most valuable player, the scoring, the All-Star. But I was fortunate to have won the scoring race a few times, and I was very fortunate to have been on 3 championship teams, which I'm quite proud of. I don't really care much for the style of the hockey they play today. It's the players are much bigger, they're stronger, and they're faster, but they took the finesse out of the game as far as I'm concerned. But I think probably a larger rink might help some, but and tighten up on some of their rules. They let things get away a little bit too much. I think they'd be a little tighter on the rules, and then these bigger guys wouldn't be able to clutch and grab and hold these guys as much as they have been doing. But I love the game now, don't get me wrong, but I just don't like the style that they're playing today.
Inducted as a player, Guyle played for the NHL's Chicago Blackhawks, but played most of his career with the rival pro Western Hockey League. He was the first professional hockey player to surpass 2,000 total career points, a feat since equaled only by 3 players, Gordie Howe, Wayne Gretzky, and Mark Messier. He is also named 9-time WHL leading scorer and 3-time most gentlemanly player.
Well, Vic was my father. He's a hometown guy. He's from Saskatchewan, and in his off seasons playing in the NHL, whether it was in Toronto or Chicago or New York, he always came home in the summertime, got another job, and Saskatoon was home for him. He played with minor hockey here, and then ended up going to New York when he was 16. He just said it was quite exciting to get off the train and see nothing but skyscrapers, and how all of a sudden he realized how scared he was coming from the prairies into this big city of New York, but excited at what his future was going to be like. He anticipated a good career with hockey, and he worked hard at it. And I think he felt that he accomplished what he had set out to do. Dad was the only player back in in the time when there was only the original 6 teams, to have played for all 6 of them. So that was quite an honor for him. His best years were with Toronto because he was with them for the longest period of time, and he got to build some really good friendships and acquaintances, and it was the time of his life, winning 3 Stanley Cups, the Stanley Cup ring. That definitely was the highlight of his career. Oh yes, he had a rivalry. He was opposite of Rocket Richard, and there was rivalry there all the time. But he still respected him as a player and as a human being, and he enjoyed every game that he played, just wanted to get out and play the sport.
Inducted as a player, Victor Lynn has the distinction of being the only player to play for all 6 original NHL teams during the original era. Victor spent the majority of his NHL career with the Toronto Maple Leafs, where he helped the team to 3 consecutive Stanley Cup championships. He finished his career coaching in Prince Albert and Saskatoon.
You know, I started playing hockey in Saskatoon. I was just a little guy, and you know, I was interesting because when I was really young, I just fell in love with the game. Playing outside, playing street hockey, playing shinny on the outdoor rink was just a joy, you know, and I can remember feet freezing, your nose frozen, but I loved it. And I just fell in love with the game at a young age, and so it's always been part of my life since then. I started coaching Pee-wee hockey here in Saskatoon. I was teaching at Aidan Bowman Collegiate, and I was asked to coach a Pee-wee team, which I never thought I would do, and I did. And I really, really enjoyed it, you know. So I hung in there with youth hockey for a few years, and then, you know, eventually you just move your way up, and then you're forced to some career decisions. I was a teacher by trade, and finally I had to make a decision. Am I going to stay in teaching or go into coaching full-time? And I went into coaching full-time. You know, I'm lucky to have worked with people that have put a lot of time into the development of the game in hockey, and I've always felt that's part of my duty as well. And probably the greatest satisfaction for me, you know, nothing to do with any championships you've won or things like that. To me, the greatest satisfaction is when I watch guys I've coached go into coaching, because then you know you must have done something right. When I first started coaching full-time, I got a chance to work with Claire Drake, the famous coach at the University of Alberta. And man, I learned so much in a summer camp with him that it just clicked that this was a great game. There's lots more to learn. I thought as a player I knew quite a bit. When I worked with Claire for about 2 weeks in Edmonton, I realized there's a lot here that I didn't know. And he was really an inspiration to me. And then I'd say probably George Kingston, Dr. George Kingston, University of Calgary, another guy who influenced my career a lot. And they were just fine gentlemen that loved the game, and they were never afraid to tell people what they were doing. They were so confident that they could teach it better than anybody else. They would go to coaching conferences and give people all this information. It took them years to work on and to refine, and they gave it away just because they tried to put something back into the game. Yeah, I think it's better now. I think in many ways. I think the fact that we have, you know, now we enforce the rules. You know, there's almost zero tolerance now. Smaller players can play where they couldn't play, you know, years ago. I think the game is exciting for fans, and I like the way the game is evolving. And I'll tell you, the quality of coaching has gone way, way up. And I'm talking from the children right up to the professional levels. I think that's important to the game, because when coaches are more educated and better at it, the kids have more fun. When the kids have more fun, they stay in the game longer. When they stay in the game longer, it's good for the game. Well, it's a terrific honor. I feel really privileged to be in that with that group. I've seen, you know, the list of people that have gone in the past, and goodness, there's some really good people. In this year's inductions, there's some great people. You know, I know a lot of these guys, Jackie McLeod and people like that, and so it's an honor, and I'm looking forward to the banquet, and I'm going to see a lot of old friends there and old familiar faces, and it certainly is for my family a terrific thing.
Inducted as a builder, Dave King coached Canada's national junior team to gold and bronze medals, and as an Olympic head coach, he won a silver medal. He has coached the Calgary Flames and Columbus Blue Jackets, and currently coaches Lokomotiv Moscow in the KHL.
Well, I grew up in the dirty 30s in Estevan, Saskatchewan, and at that time there wasn't a whole lot to do for kids. Nothing was organized, but we'd go out and go on the ice and play a game. there might be 20 kids on the ice at the same time. We just played the game and had fun. In grade school, we had 2 schools in Estevan at the time, Valley View and Central. Every Saturday morning, the 2 teams would get together and have a game. And I can only remember one time that we came out on top, and that was quite a thrill because the other guys were that much better than we were. I think that maybe part of it, again, goes back many, many years in the dirty 30s. The people in southern Saskatchewan had nothing, but they worked hard. They played for each other in farming and on sports and everything else. And I think maybe the genes passed on down the line to later days. And nowadays I've heard people in the building trades say if they had to hire a kid to work, they'd like to get a boy from Saskatchewan because they were hard workers. And maybe that is one of the reasons why we have such good hockey players. I would love to see the third period and the overtime called the same as it's called in the first period. I know Don Cherry, I don't agree with him when he says, let the teams play. Well, they do let them play, but let them play within the rules of the game. To me, being inducted is a very great honor, but is also a very humbling experience. So I'm very thankful that I'm being bestowed with this honor.
Inducted as a builder, Doc Gerry Rooney helped lead the establishment of the Humboldt Broncos. In the team's first year in Junior A, they made the league final. In the following 2 years, Doc helped lead the Broncos to 2 championships as the team's manager and assistant coach.
Apparently I must have had a little bit of talent because my father and my 2 older brothers wanted me to keep on. I went to Notre Dame College in Wilcox for 3 years and then went to Muench Canucks. I went to the New York Rangers from junior hockey. When you love a game and stuff like that, it's not too tough to play or coach. And, yeah, I enjoyed the whole works. I think the highlight as a player, I'd retired from pro, and the Trail Smoke years went to the World Championship in 1961. And they picked me up, and we won the World Tournament, won the championship, and that was the highlight of my hockey, I think. And like playing-wise and coaching, I coached in the '68 Olympics with Canada's national hockey team, and we won a bronze. We didn't go there to win a bronze, but we ended up with one, and we went to win the gold naturally. It's a little different. I think it's hard to compare hockey today as it was back when we played. Yeah, different style of game altogether. The guys are bigger, they're faster, and they shoot hard. Like these new sticks are unbelievable. Well, it certainly makes you proud, and you're very humble about it, at least I am. But I'm proud to be there, don't get me wrong.
Inducted as a builder, Jack McLeod started his career as a player with the Notre Dame Hounds. He then joined the New York Rangers. After his playing career, Jack became GM and coach of Canada's national team, winning an Olympic bronze medal in 1968. He finished his career as coach and general manager of the Saskatoon Blades.
Well, with Elgar, I spent 16 years with him, whether he was on the bench or in my office. You know, he was the kind of guy that you love to have around. He was just one of those guys that gave you that reality check of what you were doing and what you should be doing. I think the key thing is just his commitment and dedication towards the game of hockey. You know, he really epitomized what the Humboldt Broncos stand for. You know, he had a lot of heart and character, and you know, he just successfully year after year went about and did his job and created bonds between players and coaches. You know, some of the memories that really stick out for me, in 2003, the year we won our first national championship, you know, when our players took the cup over to the bench for him to host it above his head, it was just, you know, it was just kind of gratifying knowing that, you know, he was a part of it, and just the realization that he was just patiently waiting, and you know, he wanted everybody else to touch it first. He just had such a personality that he was contagious to be around. Yeah, you know what, he's with me daily, I think, just because of the lessons that you know, he taught me on a daily, a weekly, a monthly, a yearly basis. You know, his love for the players was second to none. You know, he remembered players from years and years and years, and you just wondered how he did that. And I think that for me was such a lesson. You know, always remember the players that get you to the dance or get you to the final, or even the players that had hardships and difficulties. He always took the time for them, and I think that was so meaningful for me that it was a great lesson in life.
Inducted in the Grassroots category, Elgar Peterson was a major contributor to all levels of hockey in Humboldt since the 1960s. In his time as a volunteer, he was a coach, mentor, and player. He was seen at the rink over 12 hours a day and meant a great deal to the community.
Well, I got started in hockey at a young age. Obviously, growing up in a small town, hockey was a thing to do during the winter. And everybody played, whether it was organized or just street hockey. We spent a lot of time on the rink in organized hockey, as well as just out in the school at the ice rink. I was 16 years old. I broke my leg playing midget AAA hockey, and I couldn't come back to play that season. And my dad was an official, and growing up in a small town, you'd play one game and you'd stick around to drop the puck at the next game. And I used to chase Dad around, jump in the car with him as he'd go out to officiate hockey, and I sort of got the itch by watching him. And then as I grew a little bit older, he encouraged me to put on the stripes as well, and we'd go out and do games together. So certainly Dad had a very strong influence on getting me involved in officiating. Saskatchewan has a great tradition of turning out hockey players. There's so many great players that have come from the province here. Just even today, the people that are being recognized, the teams that are being recognized. I also think officiating is very similar. There's a lot of great officials that have come through Saskatchewan, and I think when you have a great hockey program, it turns into having a great officiating program. And boy, we just have to look at the National Hockey League now with guys like Brad Watson and Brad Meyer, Mick Magoo, who's in the Hall of Fame already. The province has a great tradition and a great history of successful hockey players, but also successful officials. I think today's game is in a really good spot. I think it's come so far in recent years. Speed and skill are so much the biggest part of the game now. Restraining fouls, obstruction, where larger players who can't skate are slowing down the more skilled athletic players. And I think the game is in a real good spot because the focus is on skill and speed. To be inducted, obviously, into the Hall of Fame is a tremendous honor. Saskatchewan has a tremendous hockey history, and to be recognized as part of that history, it's just, well, it's a great feeling.
Inducted as an official, Kevin Muench has been with the SHA since 1976. He has refereed numerous Memorial Cups, CIS Championships, Royal Bank Cups, and 3 IIHF tournaments, including the 1994 Olympics.
The Saskatoon Quakers were a senior hockey team in Saskatoon, ages 19 to 36. In 1933, they went all the way through the Western Championship and won that. They eventually lost the Allen Cup to Moncton. Moncton was unable to go to the World Championship in 34, so Saskatoon, the next in line, and the next team that could represent Canada, took the bid. And they boarded the train to head east. They stopped in 6 cities on the way out east, play exhibition games. Then they got on a boat in Halifax and sailed across to Europe, where they'd play 37 games, including the World Championship and the Paris Cup.
They only lost 3 games and tied 2, if I'm not mistaken, on their European tour. So, on a very rigorous tour, they played 5 games a week. In the final game, they defeated the United States 2-1. And at the banquet, it was kind of amusing. Being such good sports fans, you know, the United States is well known for that. The players threw buns at the Quakers during the during the banquet. I found that quite amusing. They're just all local boys, basically. The major part of the team was local Saskatoon guys. They got a few guys from around, like Cooney Woods came from Ontario.
My dad said that there were gentlemen on the ice and gentlemen off the ice, so that's why the European teams or cities wanted them back. They had an open invitation to come back.
Inducted in the team category, the 1933-34 Saskatoon Quakers were international world amateur champions.
You know, right from the beginning of the year, I think, you know, the goal to be first in the league overall was certainly that we had a goal set from the prior year. I think, you know, losing in the finals to Kindersley in 02 really set the bar for us. So finishing first overall in the league, which we did, we accomplished, and then, you know, winning the league, you know, the league making you better in the process, and then going on to the Anavet Cup with Manitoba, and really going into OCN, which was the team kind of the decade or start of a very, you know, big run for them, and to be able to beat them and come home on home ice and winning the Anavet Cup, and then, you know, with the realization of, you know, we're going to a national tournament. So, and then at the end of the day, you know, just basically winning it all. So, you know, we had goals and steps in mind for that year, and, you know, accomplishing them all, you know, was a really great feat. You know, we had great direction under Bob Beattie, and I think, you know, he kind of set the tone for us and really made us realize and work hard towards those goals. I think, you know, some of the things that I think stick out for us is, you know, we were a very physical team. You know, we demanded that out of ourselves and out of our players, and I think for us, you know, the work ethic was really the trademark for success. We had so many people step up the plate at different times, you know, but the fun part about winning all that was the fact that everybody made a contribution in one way, form, or another throughout the season or the playoffs. Yeah, you know, I don't know if there was a turning point as much as the hunger for, you know, losing Game 7 at home and versus Kindersley the year before. I think, you know, that might have been the turning point for us as a staff, just to get hungry and get back to that and really want to finish it off. I think when you look at Humboldt and all the people that contribute to just the Broncos, it's really amazing how they don't get mentioned and we do, but I mean, they're a big part of it as well. But I think the turning point is just seeing everybody back, and really want to win it for them.
Inducted in the team category, the 2002 and 3 Humboldt Broncos finished first in the SJHL and were league champions. They went on to win the Anavet Cup and then the Royal Bank Cup Championship.
We were nominated because we won 6 provincial champions in 7 years. 66 we won, 67 we did not, 68, 69, 70, 71, and 72. We won 5 in a row. Well, being a small town, we didn't have the business places to bring in players, but unless it was a teacher, which sometimes we did be lucky enough to have a teacher to come in. But then we had just local boys, and a lot of the times they were brother combinations. We used Liberty boys came in and played with us. They had no other team, and their population at, what, 100 or 2. And Lockwood also, their boys had no place to play. They were trapped between Nokomis and Lanigan, so they came over and played with us. In that span of time, they were there. And as a result, that made for real camaraderie. I guess we played together and we partied together. You're always going to have to mention Glenn Crawford. He was there forever, our goaltender. You couldn't put him back. We were just a big family, and we got along out well, and standouts. Every game there was a different guy doing it. It was a team effort, and it didn't matter whether you came from Liberty, Lockwood, or Simpson. You were part of the team. Somebody always had to lose, and there was better teams than us, but and we beat better teams than our own. But we won it on I believe, the camaraderie. We had a real family to what we were.
Inducted in the team category, the Simpson Flyers had outstanding performances from 1965 to 1972, winning 6 SHA provincial championships.